In the early years of the Cold War, intelligence agencies feared something terrifying. What if the enemy had discovered a way to break the human mind? What if a prisoner could be forced to reveal secrets without realizing it? In the 1950s, American intelligence officials became obsessed with a dangerous question. Could the human mind be manipulated during interrogation? Could fear, pressure, drugs, or psychological techniques force someone to reveal information? Inside secret laboratories and hidden research programs, scientists began conducting experiments. Some were controlled, others were far more disturbing. Researchers tested chemicals, studied psychological pressure, and experimented with techniques designed to weaken resistance. The goal was simple: find a way to make interrogation more effective, but the results were unpredictable. Some subjects became confused, others became paranoid. Some experienced intense psychological distress. Yet, the experiments continued. Because during the Cold War, intelligence agencies believed the stakes were too high to stop. And those experiments would eventually become part of one of the most controversial intelligence programs in history, MK Ultra. By the early 1950s, the Cold War had transformed global politics. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a tense ideological struggle. Each side feared the other might develop technologies that could change the balance of power. Among intelligence officials, one fear stood out above the rest: brainwashing. During the Korean War, several American prisoners of war returned home after captivity. Some behaved strangely, others appeared to support enemy propaganda. Reports circulated suggesting that communist interrogators had discovered new psychological techniques capable of manipulating human beliefs. The idea terrified American intelligence agencies. If adversaries had found a way to control the human mind, the consequences could be catastrophic. Could prisoners be forced to betray their country? Could spies be manipulated without realizing it? Could loyalty itself be altered? In response, American intelligence agencies began studying psychological interrogation methods. Researchers analyzed interrogation reports from around the world. They studied how stress, fear, and isolation affected human behavior. They examined how prisoners reacted to pressure. And they began asking a dangerous question: if these techniques existed, could they be replicated or even improved? The CIA soon became deeply interested in the science of interrogation, and that interest would lead to a series of secret experiments designed to explore the limits of the human mind. The CIA wanted to understand how interrogation truly worked, not just through intimidation, but through psychology. Researchers believed that if they could understand the mechanisms of fear and stress, they might discover ways to weaken resistance. Some experiments focused on sensory deprivation. Subjects were placed in isolated environments, minimal sound, minimal light, minimal human interaction. Researchers wanted to see how long the mind could function under those conditions. Other experiments focused on sleep deprivation. Subjects were kept awake for extended periods. Investigators recorded how fatigue affected memory, decision-making, and emotional stability. The results were revealing. As exhaustion increased, mental resistance often decreased. Confusion grew. Concentration faded. Subjects sometimes struggled to separate truth from suggestion. But researchers believed drugs might accelerate the process. This led them to experiment with chemical substances, sedatives, stimulants, and eventually LSD. Scientists hoped these substances might weaken mental defenses. Under the influence of certain chemicals, subjects often experienced emotional vulnerability. Perception became distorted. Reality itself could feel unstable. In such conditions, researchers believed interrogation might become easier, but the effects were unpredictable. Some subjects became cooperative, others reacted with fear or paranoia, and some simply withdrew into silence. Yet, despite the uncertainty, intelligence officials remained fascinated by the possibilities. As the experiments expanded, researchers began testing interrogation techniques in different environments. Some subjects were military volunteers, others were prisoners, but not everyone knew they were participating in intelligence experiments. In certain cases, individuals were unknowingly exposed to experimental conditions. Researchers wanted to observe how people behaved when they did not realize they were being studied. Would stress change their behavior? Would drugs weaken their resistance? Would psychological pressure reveal hidden information? The experiments were often conducted under strict secrecy. Some research took place inside military facilities. Other studies were funded through universities and research institutions. In several cases, scientists did not even know the CIA was involved. Funding flowed through secret front organizations. This allowed the agency to study human behavior without revealing its role. Researchers collected vast amounts of data. How quickly could stress break concentration? How did isolation affect emotional stability? Could drugs alter the way people responded to questioning? But the answers were rarely simple. Human psychology proved far more complex than expected. Some subjects resisted pressure longer than predicted. Others broke down unexpectedly. And some experiments produced results that scientists struggled to interpret. Yet the CIA continued its research because intelligence officials believed the potential advantages were too important to ignore. Despite years of experimentation, one truth became increasingly clear. The human mind could not be controlled as easily as intelligence agencies had hoped. Drugs did not reliably produce obedience. Psychological pressure sometimes caused subjects to withdraw rather than cooperate. And interrogation techniques that worked in one case often failed in another. Human behavior proved unpredictable. Some researchers began questioning whether true mind control was even possible. Others believed the goal should not be control, but influence. If a subject's resistance could be weakened, perhaps information could still be extracted. Perhaps stress, confusion, and suggestion could create moments of vulnerability, moments where secrets might slip out. These ideas helped shape the next phase of CIA research, a phase that would expand psychological experimentation even further. Programs became larger, funding increased, and secrecy intensified. Because by the mid-1950s, the CIA had launched a program that would eventually become infamous, MK-Ultra. By the 1970s, fragments of the CIA's secret interrogation research began to surface. Investigations revealed that intelligence agencies had conducted psychological experiments on human subjects for years. Some of the documents had already been destroyed, but the remaining records painted a disturbing picture. Researchers had tested drugs, explored psychological manipulation, and experimented with techniques designed to weaken the human mind. Even today, historians are still trying to understand the full scale of those programs. How many experiments were conducted? How many people were involved? And how much of the truth disappeared when the files were destroyed? But the interrogation experiments were only one part of the story, because during the Cold War, the CIA launched even stranger operations. Some involved secret laboratories, others involved hidden surveillance, and one program would become infamous for turning ordinary apartments into experimental traps. A strange operation known as Operation Midnight Climax. And what happened inside those apartments remains one of the most disturbing chapters of Cold War intelligence history.